Good afternoon and welcome to Swati Pande, this discussion about her book. For most people who've never lived in Bombay, and even for many who have, their sense of the Kamatipura red light district is often formed by Bollywood films. Uh, and the depiction of the area in the movies, as you can imagine, is most often highly romanticized. In Sanjay Leela Bansali's Gangubai Kathiawadi, for instance, Kamatipura is a strip of buildings with Art Deco flourishes as the director attempts to project beauty amidst distress. What you don't sense from the movies, though, is the overpowering stench that hits you like a sledgehammer when you walk through the lanes of Kamatipura. This is a consequence of antiquated plumbing systems inside decaying buildings and deteriorating drainage and irregular garbage clearance outside. Um, and it's this enveloping stink that characterizes Kamatipura for the casual visitor, not the fake glamour that the movies project. That's one of the elements that Swati Pandey invokes in her gritty, unvarnished book, Invisible in Plain Sight, Voices from the Bylanes of Kamatipura. It's an empathetic view of the lives of sex workers she met in the neighborhood in the course of her work with the postal department, very unlikely way to actually become familiar with this area. As she writes, her work drew her into a world she'd never experienced before, one that contains not immoral women, but the real, resilient, and immensely courageous women who are warriors, for whom life has been synonymous with a bloody battlefield, where they are forced to fight every single moment. Welcome, Swati. To begin with, tell us about the project that brought you, a government officer, a woman of privilege, in contact with the women of Kamatipura.
Namaskar to all in this balmy afternoon in the wonderful city of Kozhikode. First time for me, so I'm really excited to be here. And thank you for coming and listening to the story because it's a very Mumbai story. And I was very surprised when, Kozhikode picked it up, the Kerala Lit Fest. Absolutely right, Naresh. Uh, I have been very blessed by the universe about privileges. I'm from the civil services. And Kamatipura for me was always that when I crossed that area, and I will come to Kamatipura also because that's a misnomer. Um, but his question to be answered is when I used to cross that area, like everybody, and I'm sure as a Bomber boy you would agree, that either you looked the other way because women were peddling themselves on the streets, or you pulled up your car window somehow not to take what was happening outside and you kept yourself at a distance. Because nothing to, sex work and when women garishly dress themselves to sell or peddle themselves is so much immoral in our headspace. In our headspace and what we have been taught that for us they are not even human beings. It's exactly what I wrote, invisible in plain sight. We look through them. But this journey for me happened during COVID. During COVID, not only the police in Mumbai, because the first case of COVID was in Mumbai. The first death was in Mumbai. So Mumbai was in panic mode. When it had not reached the, towns of or cities of India, we already had a death. So India Post was also one of the COVID participants where we had to open our post offices to deliver old age pensions. Right. So nobody was writing letters. India Post is today only 20% letters and 80% a bank for the common man. We are 3 times bigger than the State Bank of India. Vis-a-vis, outreach. 1.55 lakh post offices, all of them banks, and 5.5 lakh employees. So all of them banking personnel. During these times, because old people were not let come out, they could not come out, they could not get money, so they were completely, isolated. And Mumbai is a very harsh city. If you don't have family, you're isolated completely. You may be mega bucks rich, but there is nobody taking care of you. My job was And first day of COVID, with me, I had colleagues, 5,323 people working with me in Mumbai. And the day COVID hit, we were 27 of us. Just 27 people trying to run 220 post offices. That's the mammoth job. So we shut down a lot. And in the about 9th day of COVID, I went to Bombay Central, right? The head of post office. When I was trying to motivate my own staff that please come to office, we need to serve people. COVID is for all of us. We need to be, warriors. I saw 5, 7 women in, masks with small children, weak, crying, and they were howling. There was a huge ruckus going on outside the post office. I asked my postmaster what's happening. He said that, no, please, please focus. I was myself tired because COVID times were scary for people on the street. I'm sure Naresh was in your house, right? I was on the street constantly. I worked about 16 hours a day during COVID time, initial COVID times. Then I kept on asking my postmaster that what's happening. He said, "ये तो गंदी औरतें हैं. They are bad women." Even it struck something in me so primordial because when you're a woman in a man's world, you're already very aware that we are a little not equals. And then when men say that this is they are bad women, something made me very angry. And I said, exactly who are there? I went up to them and I said, what is it you want? When they saw me, they all kept quiet. Because people were calling madam, privileges, I had 5, 7 people, all, madam, don't go. Privileges. So when they saw me, they completely shut up and they kept quiet and they looked the other way. Then I said, you wanted something. They wouldn't speak to me. I went ahead and then I heard somebody speaking in a language that was not Hindi, not English and not Marathi. Because these are the 3 languages that you speak in Mumbai, right? Hindi, English or Marathi. It made me retrace my step. They were speaking in my own mother tongue, Bengali. For me, it is astounding, right? Who will speak in, and the whole lot were speaking in really colloquial Bengali. Bengali that even I don't speak. I speak a very bookish Bengali. I've grown up in Maharashtra. I came back and I said, wait a minute, are you guys Bengalis? Then one girl told me, did you not hear what we are? Hum dhande waliya hai. We are women of the streets. That completely changed my perception of people because they were confident enough to agree who they were. We would think that people who are into sex work would just stay, away from us, won't acknowledge their own profession, and they know they are being called gandi aurtein. And they are telling that, do you not know who we are? Then I said that in Bangla, of course, that why are you here? You're creating a ruckus, why are you here? And thus started the journey of my work into Kamatipura. Because that led to something, I'm sure you'll have, otherwise I could go on speaking a lot.
But that's the whole idea, for you to speak a lot. That's why everybody's here. Why don't you tell us then about the project that you...
No, I will come to the project later, but because they are audience here, Kamatipura today has become by Bollywood a place of sex work, a glamorous sex work because of, Gangubai did, show some light, but Kamatipura was not to start with an area or a red light area. Because today when you say Kamatipura, people say, oh, that red light area. Let me tell you, Kamatipura was a place that built Bombay. In the late 1700s, William Hornby used to be the governor of Bombay. Bombay used to be 7 islands. 7 islands. Naresh's forefathers are proud to come from one of those islands. I am completely rootless. So the 7 islands, you needed people to reclaim marshland because they were on the Arabian Sea. It was marshy all over. The British did not find the Konkanis or the Marathis conducive enough labor to make, to do this hard, arduous job in a hot summer and winter afternoons to actually reclaim land for them. They brought huge amounts of people from Andhra Pradesh. Then Andhra Pradesh. Kamathi is a Telugu word for labor force. You know, people who do manual labor. So that, when that area, they found a cheap marshland. It is today's area of Bhaikula, Kamatipura, that used to be Lal Bazar, and I think Mahalakshmi. Right? So then when they settled, because this was cheap, nobody's area, they claimed, made small pocket houses and named it Kamathipuram. That has become Kamatipura, nothing to do with the sex trade, unfortunately. So even today, inside Kamatipura, you find South Indian type temples with gopurams, Dravidian societies, Telugu Samaj Bhavans, and a lot of nice, Andhra food. That for me was the most interesting part of Kamatipura, that how India has amalgamated in Mumbai, because you think Mumbai of this swanky metropolis, right in there, in the sex today red light district, is this mini Andhra Pradesh. So,
when did you decide that you wanted to write a book about these women?
After having worked about 4.5 years, Naresh, with them through the government, because I used to be the Postmaster General, which means I had access. People trust the post office. Post office social brand is one of the strongest brand in smaller places, villages and towns. So then one of these girls, I was going through a little professional, challenging hardship kind of a job, where with a lot of issues for myself. And every week, once in 15 days, even today, I go to Kamatipura, sit with my girls. They are wonderful cooks. They cook for me. I eat with them. We talk about life, general laughter. So one of these, I started crying suddenly, And then they said, what happened? Why are you crying, Because when you look at a woman like me, you say she's got it all. They said, Didi, aap kyun ro rahi hai? And I told this. Then they said, okay, I always write small diary notes. I used to be an anthropologist, so I still write small notes of conversations and stuff. They said, you've written so many diaries about us. People come to meet us for half a day and they make a movie about us. They come and talk to us for 2 hours and they write Oscar-winning books. You have been working with us for 4 years. Why don't you write a book about who are we really? Because before we became sex workers, we were people. We were children, we were young girls. Why don't you write and give our life some kind of a story? So I think the suggestion, the command came from them.
And how did you settle on Salma, Kajol, Anu and Rani as the sort of pivotal characters in your book? What drew you to them?
When you work a project, I think let me then talk about the project Kamatipura. Then you will understand, Naresh. So, like I said, during these talks with them, initial days when I went into Kamatipura, Naresh, it was COVID times, as I said. And you know what I found? They have these 5x5 small rooms with paper walls. You must have seen, right? Paper or just plastic walls. And there were dead bodies lying there. Because these are women who had COVID, who have HIV, and nobody was picking up the dead bodies. Because who picks up? Already there was stress in Bombay. COVID people, nobody was touching them in our houses. We had a lot of stress. And this is inside Kamatipura, sex workers dying out of COVID, HIV, complications. Rotting dead bodies. I got my postman into this drive. And we are called BMC, Bombay Municipal Corporation, and we got that cleared first. Then I found children in absolute starvation. So we had Copper Chimneys, Mr. Joy Kapoor. He was distributing food everywhere. I called him up and I said, Kapoor Sahab, I need at least 4,000 food packs because I have it for people who, there's no food for them, right? And then after about 6 months, I asked these people that what happened to your money? You have no money. They said, our pimps or, people who we kept money ran away with it. Then I said, why don't you open bank accounts, post office accounts? Then they said something which opened my eyes. They said that when we go to any place where there is a gentleman, a man, Either he asks us for a sexual favor or he commodifies us. For him, even when we have come to give him money for our bank account, we are sex workers. We don't want to go where we are every day called, bad words. And bad words are, people, Vishya, Randi, these are not good words you like to hear about yourself. Then I asked them, what if I make a post office that is all women? All women post office. The postmaster will be a lady. The postman will be a lady. Everybody will be a lady. Will you go to a post office like that? They said, yes. If sab aurte hai, if everybody is a lady, we will go. Then I opened. It took me again a lot of struggle because no postal employee. I thought this was 6 people, 6 women post office. I put out a transfer order, right? So it will be manned, womaned by 6 people. It took me 17 postings to get my women to agree. Because they said, we are not going to Kamatipura. Somebody said, my husband says it's a bad place. Somebody said, my father says, don't go. Somebody said, mera shadi toot jayega. It took me 17 postings to get 6 women to work in Kamatipura. Then bank accounts started happening. But then what happened, I asked, what about your children? Why don't you open some accounts for children? They said, our children don't have Aadhaar cards. Why so? Because Aadhaar cards 5 years ago, when I started this project, could be done with a address verification. All of us had to give a proof of address and either mother name, father name, you had some. Where will they get address proof? They don't have an address. They're floating population and they can't even show a hospital degree. Hospital birth certificate. They're all home births, right? That took me to another battle because how do I get children into the DBT schemes, direct benefit transfer of the government, state government, central government, all of us give money, scholarship as a DBT scheme. You can't do it without a Aadhaar card. Then I wrote to Aadhaar authorities. That took me 5-6 months to open some kind, negotiate. And I'm from the government myself. But I thought if we can't make this happen, I can't expect anybody else, right? So after that negotiation, they said that if India Post, the post office agrees to be the address, alongside an NGO, then you can open an Aadhaar card. So the NGO girls used to collect and my postmaster, woman postmaster, I do not know. When I was the postmaster general, people asked me, postmaster general, but I cannot call myself postmistress general or postmiss general. What a misnomer. Everything. So then India Post started signing as the guardian of these children. So we opened the first Aadhaar cards without any address proof, but we were the address. Government. So thank you. When people tell government does not function, please bear with us. Maybe some of us do not. The government functions if we want it to function. So we opened 5,000 Aadhaar cards in the area of Kamatipura, Madanpura, Grant Road, all the areas where peddling happens. We got them, the DBT schemes. We got some children into JJ College of Architecture, 1-2 children because, they were talented, some of them. So that was how the project settled. India Post took that over across the country also. So across the country, India Post, in these cases of stress, with an NGO and the government, India Post, we open Aadhaar cards. So that was the project. Of course, the story is much more. My book is much more than the project. It's about the women themselves.
So you describe how, as the project was going on, it was still difficult to get the women to open up to you.
Yeah.
How did you manage that? What did it take to get them to tell you about their lives?
I will, permit me to read. Yeah, permit me to read. I will tell you what it actually took. After 6-7 months of me being in the post, first of all, I used to meet them in the Telugu Sangam because they did not want to come to a post office, and I was asked by my post people that don't go to their houses. And like I told you, I had my prejudices also. I have been taught from young age that, this world is dangerous. There are many people in this world because I also got, I'll tell you what happened is that I was called to somebody's house. And when I went with my, sweets for them and Mogra, Gajra, I always wear flowers. In one afternoon, one man in Kamatipura came and asked me, Kitne ka maal hai? They asked me for my price. Because that day, when you walk the streets, Naresh, there is nowhere written that who you are. So then, I think my girls realized that day that I'm ready to do the heavy lifting. And I did not have anybody with me. No staff, no postman, nobody. I was walking with these girls. So I looked one of them, maybe a better version, a better candidate for the evening or whatever. I think that is the instance then they realized that I could have come with my driver, my people, but I thought that it's one-to-one, right? They called me home for lunch. When I first entered one of the girls' houses, I want to read what it. The Postmaster General saw Rani standing with a wide smile on her face and hugged her. Rani led the way to one of the nondescript rooms and made the shivering woman sit on the bed, which had no linen on it. The neon bulb in Rani's tiny, claustrophobic room blinked randomly, creating psychedelic patterns on the damaged, dilapidated walls. The mattress was of ancient provenance, with the cloth covered in grime. It had given away in some places, and the cotton stuffing was bursting out and playing hide and seek. There were large stains on the mattress, which gave off a musty smell like that of human sweat and semen. The Postmaster General felt giddy. She could barely hold back the puke that had risen to her mouth. It was as if this filth would be hers forever and could never be washed off her body. She tried to keep the vomit in and also maintain her composure, for the three women were watching her pale face intently. They were testing her, looking at her leeringly, while also acting like protective mother hens. No rules of normal human behavior are applicable here.
So these, you were telling us how you decided to write about these four women and make them the center of your book.
Yeah. So these four women, I could have chosen anybody, right? But then I wanted to show they were metaphors. They are real women, but they were also metaphors. Because the first women, I chose women with specific characteristic that I watched. And like I told you, I was an anthropologist, so you do a data sampling because you can't write about 10 when you're trying to complete your story. So one woman, Salma or the Yapa, the first story, was a woman of silence. She had a very silent dignity. She's 65. She takes care, she's the matriarch, she takes care of other women's children, she peddles also, and it's an unending life of suffering, and yet she had this silence in her. I found that so mysterious and so, a saddening quality of silence, because silence can be a big dissident factor also. You need not always shout to be heard. Sometimes silence is more painful and more pinching than a shout. So that is how I picked Salma or Apa. My second story was a girl called Shilpa. Annu, I've named her. So she entered Kamatipura not so much as a trafficked lady. Because when you think about sex work, you think that all of them are trafficked, right? They're picked up from their homes. Most of them are. She came from poverty. And she more or less knew what is going to happen. That's what a lot of poor families are in India, where they let go of a daughter on the path of wrong side. I do not know how do I call it, but to get them money. So that is the story I chose, because there are some women there also. When they came from real poor houses. They came to sell their bodies so that the families could feed themselves. I picked Kajol because she is a dynamite, Every house needs a dynamite. She's a born leader. In fact, one of my lines read that if Kajol had not been a sex worker, she would have been a master criminal or a great politician, a leader. She was a born leader. So I chose her because I was frankly awestruck by her bravery, her guts, her willingness to stand up for everybody. And this is a place that is unforgivingly bad. You do not, survive. You merely go day to day. You do not know what's happening to you tomorrow because you also have violent customers. It is not just the world, it's your own customers also who are violent. So I chose her, and Rani was a young girl who was trafficked. Rani was a quintessential Bollywood story. Picked up from a village, kidnapped, exploited, trafficked, came to Kamatipura. So for me, these girls were real people, but metaphors of what the general population of Kamatipura stood for.
You spend a lot of time in the book talking about their childhoods,
Yeah.
this sort of time of innocence and their moments of happiness. What led you to do that?
Simply because I wanted people to understand that they have not forgotten who they were. When we look at sex workers, I think we look at them as people to pity. If we are, if we are nice people, we pity them. And if we are normal people, then we just do not look at them. We just walk away, walk away. So I told you that this book came from them itself. They wanted me to write this book. I realized that how do you write? You can write a book in many ways. You can write with pity, you can write with empathy, you can write saying this is wrong or this is right. But I realized that when they were talking to me, because they've been talking to me for 4 years, they kept on telling me about childhood. Didi, aapko malum hai, when we were young, I am a guava chore and I beat up somebody. So there was a story. Then Apa, who was really, really old, she said, Didi, when I was young, I was a great dancer. और मैं रोजी जैसे guide picture में dance करती थी. आज तो जीने का तमन्ना है. Each of them, and they asked me, Didi, how was your childhood like? I used to say that my father my father's a person from partition, East Bengal, 1948. So a lot of my own, so Naresh, for me, that was a point of laughter. The moment we all spoke about childhood, we forgot who we are today. We were all sitting and recounting, मैंने उसको ये किया, somebody pulled my pigtail. At that moment, we were equal. Each of us had a nice thing to talk about ourselves. And there was no gloom. I thought that is where I should start. Because in their heads, they can transport back to a place of great happiness and joy. I can transport back to one too. So that is where I chose. Everybody's story is a complete story by itself, and starting from their places of laughter. Of course, they got sold by their own family members also. Somebody's father sold her, somebody's mother sold her. But before all that, they were happy-go-lucky kids. And that's why I thought, the story should also humanize them. They're human beings, but we say sex workers, commercial sex workers, and end of story. As if they don't have a memory before they became sex workers, Naresh. I wanted to give them that dignity, that who they are in their own spaces also.
One of the interesting devices you use in the book is that you write even about yourself in the third person. Why did you do that?
That is a call that a lot of people fought. So nowhere in my book I have said I. Naresh, if you read my book, and please do read this book, it's nice for people who want to read about life. That, I think, Naresh, comes again from the fact that you said, and what everybody would think, that I'm so entitled. I'm so entitled, and I already had a status. So if I wrote that I'm not on equal footing. I felt that the moment I read I, then I am X, and I am not on equal footing. And in their world, I had become a person of equal footing. So I want a kind of equality, at least in the endeavor to give their story. Because I can never be at equal footing. Whom am I kidding? Whom am I kidding? I don't live day to day in danger, Naresh, but at least some justice to me, and to them. I wanted a level playing field in whatever way I could give. So I tried to write as a she and not as a I.
you were a person who works for government who went into this. What did you find out about the official complicity, perhaps, of the law and order authorities that allow this system to continue? And did that cause any friction?
That's a very tricky question for somebody in the government service right now. But Naresh, you have answered the question yourself. People turn a blind eye. That's the only thing I can say. It can only happen when you're looking the other way. People turn a blind eye.
You know, like so much of Mumbai city now, everything is being redeveloped, and Kamatipura sort of lost its natural catchment for clients in a way when the mills shut, and then when the wholesale markets moved out of city limits, and so the truck drivers who came to Mumbai and would visit the women didn't come anymore. And already to the eye of the casual visitor, it seems that there are more shops selling pipes than there are brothels. They've already announced an ambitious redevelopment plan to do what in Mumbai we call cluster development, where an entire set of buildings are torn down. What do the women think about this?
They feel suddenly homeless. You see, that's the problem. The problem is that they are just not in control of their destiny. They have nothing, called destiny, and they are not even renters with papers, right? They pay weekly rent, and they've always done that, and they're very floating. So they're very insecure. They've always been there. Some of these women have been there for 50 years, and they have been subalterns. There is Italian Marxist Antonio Gramsci. He calls people subalterns who exist, are not seen, who live in the fringes, who have no say even about their daily affairs, right? So this is how these women are. They are very, very worried about where they stand. Some of them have moved Kalyan Dombivli side. Some of them want to stay put, believing that there will be a way out and there will be some kind of understanding. They are all extremely jittered, and that's the truth. They do not, the life they had, and they have lives. They have children going to BMC schools. They have children working, somebody in cycle repair, somebody in pipe shops, somebody in cloth. Kamatipura is also a huge cloth market in the evening. So they have families in their, whatever families they have. They all are in that occupation of near about Kamatipura. So a great sense of a doom about tomorrow. If you ask me how are they feeling, they really don't know. And they keep on asking, that Didi, kya hoga hamara? What do you think is our way out? There is impending uncertainty, unsettlement, definitely.
I think among the other things that seem to have caused some uncertainty was the HIV epidemic, which made clients scared. And then the internet and the mobile phone have changed the nature of have changed the manner in which work is solicited. How has the sex trade changed? You were telling me that a lot of women are not trafficked in the way that we imagined that they were.
Yeah. With awareness, I can only tell you that a lot of work has been done by the NGO sector, and amazing work by the NGO sector, and their medical awareness is improved. So today, they do not, they'd rather have, do the sexual act with condoms. So there's a great awareness among themselves, and they flatly refuse customers without protection. Flatly refuse today. Number one. Number two, there's a lot of NGOs who do these medical camps time and again. So that has improved health and awareness of their own bodies. Basically, you see, the moment you're aware of your own body is when you change. So that has happened. And soliciting, I found that you're still having single peddlers. In fact, 90% of women are doing it now self. Single peddling at the roadside or near shops, or so that the middleman has come down much more. So they control their own destinies and trade a little more, and are aware of health, are aware of what to do in case they get sick. And when you said that is their clientele decreasing, I do not find that, because you have a lot of migrant labor still. You know, Bombay has this construction. With construction boom that has happened in Mumbai, comes in lots of migrant labor. Right. So that today, from truckers and mill workers, has become construction laborers.
Why don't you read us another passage?
Yes, of course. So when I say these women live wholesome lives, I also want to show and enlist how they live lives of humor, because I think we forget they're women too. The women with full-bodied sense of humor, and remember, unlike us who keep our emotions deep in, they are raw and unfiltered. They don't care to shit about what people think about them. So it's one of these journeys where, again, food is a big, I do not now know how much food moves all of you, but food moves Bengali women quite a lot. The only talk we do it, I've read the great, the great Malayali movies, Kitchen Story. So yeah, food moves you too also. Sorry, I stand corrected. So in one of these days, we were talking about food, and my two girls, Anu and Kajol, one comes from the eastern part of Bengal. So you have a specific fish called the hilsa fish. Anybody heard of the hilsa? Yeah, correct. So the East Bengalis love a hilsa fish, and the West Bengalis like the prawns. So neither nor can match, and neither nor shall eat each other's fish. So I'll read the passage and I'll explain. I've written, one day they invited their officer Didi for lunch to a sumptuous dish of mach bhat to their place. And a Bengal, the East Bengal people are called the Bangals, and the West Bengal people are called the Ghotis. And a Bengal Ghoti riot broke out between Anu and Kajol about what was to be cooked and fed to Didi. Kajol said it had to be hilsa fish, while Anu meekly argued like the tastiest fish was prawn. Kajol told Anu that the Bangals had big hearts like they were, and fed people big fish like the Ilish, unlike the Kanjus Ghotis who had tiny hearts and thus chose a small prawn. Okay, Anu went all red and hot at this ridiculous comment. Silently, she watched Kajol cook, then walked into her small kitchen, took the bowl of hilsa fish, threw it into the drain that ran by the side of their house. As she did that, she smiled sweetly at Kajol and said, "Please see that Didi is fed well." Saying this, she burst into laughter. Kajol took a moment to realize that Anu would have done something and ran towards her like a lioness with a kitchen knife. Anu was scared now, and meekly she ran around playing hide and seek. Kajol was threatening to injure Anu. Realizing Kajol was unstoppable, Anu ran into her room and locked herself. For the next 2 hours, the scene remained unchanged. Kajol, with her knife, waiting outside the room, trying to kill Anu. Till Officer Didi arrived. She was hungry and straightway entered the tiny kitchen to take a look at what had been cooked. Seeing the kitchen in a mess and with no food at all, she came to see Kajol sitting with the kitchen knife at Anu's doorstep. Hearing Didi's voice, Anu shouted, begging from inside, "Please save," I've written that in Bengali, but "please save me, otherwise that gunda is going to kill me over a mere fish." So, of course, I've written more. So, I wanted to show that, how normal they are. And the tag of sex workers is so caricatured. So, any of us in a Ghoti Bengal family would do the same fight about throwing each other's dish into the drain and believing that the other one would, partake.
You trained as an anthropologist.
That's right.
How did that academic rigor affect the way you wrote the book? How did it influence you?
I was an anthropologist ages ago. I'm 28 years a bureaucrat, and before that I was 4 years an anthropologist. But I will tell you this, once you do social sciences and you realize that you are to not be the subject yourself, that you are to remove yourself from this subject you are studying, and yet you have to go native, right? So somehow you have to have the vigor of understanding, not making any judgments, and yet trying to write as an outside observer. And that comes with years of training your own brain, that I shall not make judgments, I shall report. So it's like a journalist. You know, when you feel about a case, but you still try to maintain neutrality. An anthropologist's case is the same, that we try to see the socio-cultural norms, but we stay in the outside of the story. And I think that rigor helped me quite a lot, because I could write a story without making judgments and humanizing women who are very difficult to humanize. Because remember, I have my bias. I have a narrator's bias of being told, because even when I was working with the sex workers, I was constantly judged by my own colleagues, my own staff, who kept on telling me, ma'am, why are you sitting with these women? What is so interesting about them? And I had a lot of comments also from people that, lot of comments. I went through personal issues in my professional career also, where my boss told somebody that when somebody asked, where is Mrs. Pandey? So she said, wo to Kamatipura mein baithi hai. Please, the nuance, it's a nuanced word. But, you go through that, but I think as an anthropologist, you go native, but you stay in the fringes, cut your narrator's bias.
In addition to being an anthropologist, you're a prize-winning filmmaker, and your film Elephants Do Remember follows a woman named Rama Khandwala, who was a tourist guide, but she'd also been a member of the Indian National Army as a young woman. How different were the challenges you faced telling the stories of these women and focusing on a single character?
Well, the first difference, of course, is a difference of occupation. One, Rama Khandwala was, when she was 14 years old, she was born in Myanmar, or erstwhile Burma. And about when I met Rama Didi, she was already 89 years old, and she had won the President's Gold Medal the year before, when she was 88, as an active tourist guide of Japanese language in Mumbai. So at 88, she was a tourist guide also. And please understand, Rama Didi was one of the few people I knew, and I'm sure you would know, who actually has seen Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Rama Didi had seen, worked with him, been in the Azad Hind Fauj, Rani Jhansi regiment, and she could recount me tales of Netaji. You know what? How was Netaji as a father? How was Netaji? Did he miss his wife at all, Emily Schenkel? I was very interested to hear this, because when you close your eyes, all of you close your eyes, which picture of Netaji do we see? We see, "Aap mujhe khoon do, main aapko azadi dunga." So Netaji as a freedom fighter. She could tell me the stories of Netaji as a singer. He was a great singer, Rabindra Sangeet. So with Rama Didi, she was pretty lucid, and she was respectable in a square box kind of a situation. So getting a story, of course, the only thing that I found difficulty with Rama Didi was that she was aging. She forgot her stories and all. But it was far simpler, and there was acceptability of society. That when I was doing this, everybody said, oh, she's a freedom fighter. Yes, we must make a story about her. So when you're a freedom fighter and you're a lady, there is all kudos to you. But when you are a lady and you are in sex work, you see the irony. The stories are of resilience. But one says that you are respectable, so it is a story that we accept much easier. And one says you're not. So the struggle is for everybody. Me as an author, them as narrators, it was a big struggle.
Before we open up to the audience, just one last question. How did you choose your title?
It just came to me, Naresh, because I was guilty of the same bias. There were times in my life when I went through Bombay Central looking at these women and acting, I have not seen them, And whenever I talk to people, they said, "हाँ वो खड़े रहते हैं, but हम तो नहीं देखते." And it just came to me, invisible in plain sight. They're right there. You see them, and you train your eyes not to see them. You just look through them. I think that, you know, it was, I am guilty of the same action, and I thought that this is the only thing I could, that would be the only title I could find because of my own guilt.
Let's open up to the audience then if there are any questions.
Namaste, madam.
Namaskar.
My question is, in Malayalam there is a book, Vishuddha Pavangalude India, written by Arun Eluthachan. I can translate it into English. India, the land of holy sins. You have also written a book. My question is, there was a system called Devadasi system in Karnataka and other southern parts of India. It has got deep roots in caste system. Do you think that the system, that is, we can call it somewhat into prostitution something, because ladies are being utilized for some other purposes, which do you think that there is a necessity of banning by law? It has not been banned yet. Many streets are there in Kolkata, Mumbai, in other metropolitan cities also. It's a kind of curse for India. We are going to be the second strongest nation by 2040. What's your feeling, being an anthropologist? How do you view that this system is to be banned or it is to be prohibited throughout India?
You know, when you say you're an anthropologist, by training we cannot have an opinion. We are not the people to make opinions about occupation. However, let me tell you that prostitution as it stands is illegal the brothels are illegal, the pimps are illegal, the system is illegal. Single peddling is grey area, right? Now, whether a woman has a right to do an occupation that you say is not dignified, I think it's a question beyond morality.
Hello, ma'am. First of all, thank you for the work you do and the book that you have written. I just had one little, let's say, question or statement or observation on is there an alternative vocabulary for, as we say, sex workers, but when we are talking, we hesitate ourselves before saying, oh, they are bad women, because is there a possibility of creation, because this is the need. I think that this is the very need of the hour, that there must be the creation of an alternative vocabulary to talk about women, of be them sex workers or any women of any kind. We must not have a vocabulary that makes us hesitate even before mentioning them. So it was just an observation.
No, I completely resonate with you. You see, their vocabulary has changed. Earlier, we called them street workers, right? Then we called them prostitutes. That was very abhorrent. Now we say commercial sex workers. It all is a statement of complete ostracism. You are keeping them at the fringes. Now, whether there's a need for vocabulary, of course there's a need for vocabulary. The book itself says that humanize these people. They are doing a profession which the world, which we, stamp it as not nice, but they're doing it to feed their stomachs and their children. Each of them are mothers. So I feel very strongly about right to the body. They are mothers, and they're doing something to feed their own. And we should give them dignity of that at least. So yes, there is a need. And you are, young people, you must come with vocabulary that gives, at least covers up the dishonor.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
My question to you is, how do you protect your own emotional well-being while reporting on such intense realities?
Very good question. I could not. How do you protect? No. I told Naresh that we have to keep ourselves distant. But that's not the truth, is it? When you see injustice, acute exploitation, how do you protect yourself? I have had days of depression, and while writing this book, I've written 2 chapters and I got so disturbed that I gave up for next 4 months. And then you again rise because you tell yourself that I have to write. I have to, give the story a shape that I wanted to give. So how do you protect yourself? You dive into your own work because I have another profession. So thankfully I could dive, but I have gone through phases of deep, unsettling depression, angst, anger, frustration. What can I, how do you handle it? The truth is, I could not. I have fallen into, this, my mind space is even today when I think and I go and I come back feeling numb.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, hi.
Namaskar.
So it was happy hearing you. This question is to the bureaucrat in you and perhaps to the woman in you. So let's talk about legalizing prostitution. So when we talk about legalization of prostitution, definitely there will be an intervention of regulation, legislative regulation or a constitutional regulation, right? So I heard a very privileged voice, a woman, saying that the legalization of prostitution is significant to make our sisters and mothers safe at home and at streets. So I can't begin to wonder, is this a very convenient way of transferring the sexual burden or the sexual labor of the upper caste and middle class feminism to the already marginalized and exploited lower caste women? I would like to know your opinion on that. And all the while keeping a very respectable distance from the act of sex work. So psychologically, even today, even when we preach about intersectionality and feminism, do we psychologically think that sex work or sex worker is not at par with us? That's my question. Thank you.
Is your question more of academic provenance, or do you want to know what, is the word on the ground? Because I will tell you, I'll keep myself to the work I have done, right? Because if you're asking bureaucrat in me, do I think X is correct, Y is correct? I will keep that to myself because it's an opinion, and it's an individual opinion. So yes, I agree with you that it is at times transference. But please understand women always find a loss of power. When they transfer something is because it becomes difficult for them to take that burden. So like any other psychological phenomenon, when things get difficult for you to take, you send transfer because otherwise the pain becomes too much. And about second, Kamatipura is not based on any caste lines. It's based on poverty, acute poverty. And we'll have this conversation. I get your point. If you meet me, we'll have this conversation. Yeah, because it's a long conversation.
They are restricted to an area
Yes.
of Kamatipura.
Not just Kamatipura, it's a long, big area.
Yeah. Lot big area. Coming to the last answer of the first question, you have mentioned there are different kind of sex works, that individual work, grave area. So haven't you encountered someone on that area? And what might be the differences between the people who do that kind of sex work that is not restricted to one area or per certain area, and these people? On the psychological aspect, how do you view that, and what's your viewpoint about that?
See, that is where I kept myself confined to doing the bureaucratic work. I did not go in, I went into, hell. Then I realized a problem that the government can fix, and I worked hard to fix the problem. And I got very busy. It took me about 3.5, 4 years to fix and get them into mainline digital financial inclusion. So a lot of my work was not about legality, not legality, who's doing what, but to get children into what the government is giving. So I focused. Also remember, I had a job to do, a job that is equally demanding. So I did not go inquiring as to what is happening here in, the outer margins, but focused on the job to be done and the change I wanted to see, because I knew that this was, there's sometimes feelings in your own world that if I push a little more, I'll succeed. If I push a little more, I'll succeed. that's what I did. And yeah.
And we wrapped up, we're right out of time. Thank you so much, Swati, and go out and buy her book.
Thank you, Naresh. It was wonderful to have a conversation with you. Thank you.